Former President Trump and Vice President Harris are campaigning in a combined 4 battleground states today with just 15 days to go before Election Day. Former president is making several appearances in North Carolina, delivering remarks in Concord, a suburb of Charlotte, tonight. That's after he surveyed damage from Hurricane Helene in Asheville and then held a rally in Greenville. Meanwhile, the vice president is holding her own campaign event in Brookfield, Wisconsin this evening after stops in Pennsylvania and Michigan. And early in-person voting kicks off today in 7 states. Voters in some areas of Florida can also begin casting their ballots in person today. As of this afternoon, 15.3 million Americans have voted early so far. Weijia Jiang and Robert Costa join us now. Weijia is at the White House. Robert is in Concord, North Carolina, with former President Trump. Weijia, I want to start with you. The vice president is on the road today with former Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Why and what's the import of that?
That's right, Major. She is hitting what we call the blue wall state. She began her morning in Pennsylvania. Right now, she is in Michigan, and she will end her day in Wisconsin. Now, why are these 3 states important? Her campaign says the election will be made or broken, not just in these 3 states, Major, but in particular in the suburbs, which is why these moderated conversations are happening with the former Congresswoman who spoke at length today about the reason why she cannot support Donald Trump, the reason why she is supporting Vice President Harris. And this is an effort, Major, to reach those independent voters or moderate Republicans who might not be ready to vote for Trump for various reasons and who might be persuadable. Now, you know, as well as I do, this is a very small group of people. But the campaign thinks if they can reach these people, that's where they will find a victory, which is why they are having these moderated conversations about everything from maternal health to expanding Medicare, to honoring the Constitution, which is what Cheney is really trying to drive home here, Major, reminding conservative Republicans, reminding her party about what happened in the aftermath of the last election and what is at stake.
I want to go to Robert Costa in North Carolina. Robert, you know the answer to this trivia question. Which state had a closer raw vote total margin in 2020? Michigan, Pennsylvania, or North Carolina? The answer: North Carolina. Summarize the former president's day in the Tar Heel state.
Major, great to be with you and Weijia. Former President Trump is coming to North Carolina because alongside Georgia, it's part of a changing South on the campaign map. This is not just solid Republican territory anymore. A lot of people moving to North Carolina, South Carolina, other areas of the South in recent years for a better cost of living and a better life in their view. And so this has become more politically competitive. And he's trying to talk about the federal response to the hurricane in recent months. And he's casting it as being done in a negative way by the Biden-Harris administration. He has made false claims on that front. At the same time, he's also reaching out to evangelicals. I'm here in Concord, North Carolina, for an event that's very much based on religious liberty, religious issues. They're praying right now behind me and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And so this is about him solidifying that base of conservative Christian voters in the South who are going to make sure his campaign believes will put him over the top.
Robert Costa, we'll get back to you. I want to go back to you, Weijia, at the White House. I want to play some sound from you today from the vice president, perhaps looking at the polls, perhaps just encouraging Democrats to keep a very intense focus, calling herself and her campaign the underdog. Let's listen.
It's going to be a tight race until the very end. And we are the underdog, and we are running as the underdog. But make no mistake, we will win.
So can it be both? Weijia?
Major, I was just talking to campaign sources today who say, yes, of course, this is part of the messaging, but they really believe it's true also because they have data that we might not be privy to, but they do think this is going to be such a toss-up and they don't want to take anything for granted. And this message, this word underdog, Major, really has been at the center of her campaign since Harris rose to the top of the ticket, because she doesn't want people to get complacent. She wants to make sure that her base of supporters turns out, that they vote early if they can, and that they show up at the polls on Election Day. And that's part of the reason why she hammers this home at every rally, to say that, you know, we are the ones behind here, and we have to make sure that we turn out to change that. And so when you look at the money, it might not say that. I mean, she's brought in a record number of fundraising dollars and continues to do that. But money is only one aspect, a very important one. But there are other things to consider. And I am told that she really feels like the underdog because, you know, as vice president, perhaps she has not resonated with people as much as the former president has. Of course, the vice president does not always get the center of attention by design. And so that's why, you know, we hear this messaging over and over.
I want to go back to Robert Costa in Concord, North Carolina. Robert, as you remember in 2016, one way that the former president, then candidate Trump, described the Access Hollywood tape was locker room talk. Well, this weekend in Pennsylvania, we got some actual locker room talk from the former president in remarks that his campaign said before they were delivered were supposed to be part of the closing argument. I want to play for the audience some portion of that closing argument locker room talk.
This is a guy that was all man. This man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. So you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've had enough, that you just can't take it anymore. We can't stand you. You're a vice president. The worst.
How does the campaign believe that it advances its cause with profanity such as that?
I haven't heard one campaign source talk about it advancing the cause in any way. It's Trump being Trump. Over the years, Major, you've interviewed former President Trump quite a bit. I've done the same. I've had actually many interviews over the years that have veered into the topic of golfing great, the late Arnold Palmer, who he brought up in a vulgar context on Saturday in Pennsylvania. He also used an expletive to talk about Vice President Harris. Nothing new from 2016 or 2020. What is a view inside the Trump campaign is that Trump's character, conduct, his language is already baked into the electorate's view of the former president, and that the threshold for shocking or alarming voters about something Trump says or does is extremely high after nearly a decade on the presidential stage as a candidate, president, and now candidate again.
And Robert, does that play into what is clearly a messaging and mobilization effort of the Trump campaign on the quote-unquote bro side of the demographics in America, meaning macho men getting male voters who are either lightly attached or have never voted before to show up?
No, there's no concerted effort to use Arnold Palmer stories or curse words to appeal to younger men who might get their news from podcasts or other non-traditional media sources. It is a campaign strategy to have Trump appear on those kind of platforms and programs. But at the end of the day, the candidate is not in any way intertwined with this strategy in terms of his rhetoric and his performance. The way it's put to me by so many Trump advisors is they're almost riding the wave of Trump's behavior and trying to use it as a way to maybe appeal to a wider group of younger people who aren't always familiar with his style, but they're in no way directing Trump in any particular direction.
Not intertwined rhetorically with the campaign strategy, said beautifully by Robert Costa. Also, our thanks to Weijia Jiang at the White House. Thank you very much.